Good morning. Elisa is going to post a link to you guys or something for you to in the chat for you to go sign in for attendance at the beginning and at the end of this session. So if you guys would all go look at the chat, there is a link there for you. And I'm sure she'll keep adding it in as more people join in. We have 28 participants right now, 29. So some are just joining in. She'll just keep adding that so that people can sign on. And while she's doing that, I'll do a quick introduction and let you know what our agenda is for this morning. My name is Karen Gossett, and I live in Texas, kind of northwest of Austin, a little bit in a small town called Burnett. I'm a former teacher. I taught elementary, but mostly middle school science. And that's how I learned a lot about STEMscopes. I am retired now. I've been retired for a couple of years. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm happy to do an overall navigation for you guys to kind of just show you through the steps. I also want to make sure that I point out the most important components that will let you make sure that you've covered your standard, as well as just show you the things that are extras, because I don't want you to think, oh my goodness, this is overwhelming. There's no way I can do all of this. So if you would keep a little pen and paper next to you, it'll be very helpful because we have to go quickly since it's an hour. So you're going to want to probably jot down those main things, that get you to the point where you know that you've covered the content. So a little piece of paper and pencil or pen would be really helpful. I'm also going to make sure I show you guys how to assign things digitally and how to look at what the students have turned into you digitally. And then I want to show you a very important component in the help tab so that you can see that if you don't know, if you get stuck, you're like, I don't remember how to do this. I don't remember how to use the gradebook. I don't remember how to assign content. There is a little help section that gives you videos and PDFs of step-by-step instructions of how to do things. Okay, so if you're just joining us, look in the chat. There's a link for you guys to sign in for attendance purposes. There'll be a link at the beginning right now, and then there'll be a link at the end. So you'll have to sign in at the beginning and then sign out at the end. And I'm going to go ahead and get started since we only have this hour, and then I'll keep reminding you to make sure you guys have all signed in. And again, I am recording this meeting so that those who are not there will have it, or if you want to watch again, you'll be able to do that. So I'm going to go to my my desktop, my STEMscopes. So when you first log into STEMscopes through your Clever account, it will open up to a home page. This is what we call the blue navigation bar. I have the training website, so you're not going to see everything on yours that I have on mine. So I don't want that to confuse you. These two are add-on packages and that you may not have. So you have a home, and this is where you it's like your landing page. It tells you your class sections, any bookmarks you might have that are there, and I'll show you how to bookmark. Then you also have a planner tool, which is a drag and drop. It's awesome. You'll love that if you haven't used that before. This is just showing you all of your bundles in one place, and then at each scope within that bundle. But scopes is where you're going to spend 90% of your time. And then this is just a list of all your standards for your state. And then this student tab is where you'll probably spend your other 10% if you are going to assign things digitally. This is an assessment builder, which is pretty self-explanatory. When you click on that, it just kind of leads you through a filtering kind of tool that helps you build assessments if you want to use that for more questions. And then under more here, we have help and an analytics dashboard. So the help is one thing I want to make sure that you guys know where that is. So the help has lots of different components. There's how to navigate the curriculum. So what we're doing today basically is scope navigation, going through all the 5E model through a scope and all of the different things in a scope. So let's say that you forgot how to do that. You can go to scope navigation. There will be a short video that explains it. Just kind of a recap, and then also a PDF with little step-by-step instructions. So make sure you remember the help key is on the blue navigation bar. If you don't see it, click more. It's because maybe my screen is too big and it won't go all the way across. So there's your help. In case you need to write that down, it's on the blue navigation bar or under the More tab. Okay, so there's your help. And then there's all kinds of things like how to create a class, how to archive, how to assign content. We're going to talk about assigning content today. But if you forget, this tells you how to do it. How to evaluate content, use your grade book. And then there's even extras like Google Classroom and Google Drive integration. So there's lots of great things here for you. Also remember there's a feedback button on every page. This sends an email directly to the STEMscopes team and they kind of take all these questions and they send them to the curriculum team, the development team, the whatever team needs, the technology team, whatever kind of problem or suggestion you might find or have, you can use that feedback button to directly let STEMscopes know. And that's how a lot of these wonderful changes have come about, from teachers giving suggestions. Okay, so that's your blue navigation bar. We're going to go straight into a scope because that's where you're going to spend most of your time. That's where we're going to spend most of our time today. So you have a filter tool to get to your scopes. I'm just going to stop for a second and say, if you're just joining us, look in the chat. There should be a link to an attendance. So make sure that you sign in and get credit for today. There'll be an attendance at the beginning and at the end of the session. So I want to go to, maybe I go to grades, and I'm going to go to middle school physical science. And I know we've got middle school and high school here today, so I'm picking something, the 8th grade, just something in the middle. Remember, it doesn't matter what scope I use to model, they're all laid out the same way. So, and they have pretty much the same elements under each of the topics. Okay, so when I get there, I want to look and see these are all of my scopes. So here's the bundle, which is called Bundle 1, Chemical Reactions. And within Bundle 1, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different scopes. And they're called scopes because they're not necessarily just one standard covered. There might be multiple standards covered under one scope because they intertwine well together and they're easy to learn and to teach together. They coordinate well together. And then Bundle 2, and the scopes for Bundle 2 are there. There's 3 of those. Bundle 3, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 scopes for those. And then Bundle 4, there's 2, and Bundle 5, there's 2. Bundle 6, there's 4, and that's it for middle school physical science. So I'm just going to go ahead and start with the first one, structure of matter. So when I click on that, it takes me to a home page that gives me all of my performance expectations, my 3D focus on my SEPs, my CCCs with my DCI, my disciplinary core idea. So that is something that you could also copy and paste right into lesson plans if you needed to. The main thing I want to show you 2 main things on this page, and then the others are pretty self-explanatory. Teacher background. I cannot encourage you enough to really, really look this over carefully. Print it if you need to, so you can keep it year to year. But as teachers, we want to be sure that we are covering the content that we're supposed to be covering. And this also, especially if you're new to this subject area, you want to be sure you have the right background information. So please do not skip teacher background. It is vital that you really get a good handle on what you're teaching and what kids are supposed to know. So that's your teacher background. And look, it's not that much. If there's any images that you like, all you have to do is click on an image. It'll make it larger. You can right click on it and you can save it, copy it, so that you could use these in your notes if you want to. So any image that you like, you want to show that image, do that, right click it. You can save it, copy it, put a QR code to it, whatever you want to do with it. So it's nice to know that you can use those images in notes or PowerPoints of your own. The other thing that's very important is the standards alignment, because this is going to show you a vertical alignment as well. So it's going to talk about that PE and that 3D focus again, but now you've got your evidence statements. Perfect for lesson planning. So you take these and you can copy paste them. You can use them for your planning. I love that it also has grade band endpoints. So by the end of grade 5, this is where they should already be. So if you're teaching 8th grade, you look at this and you say, okay, so I don't have to, hopefully, you never know, reteach all of this. This is where they should be. And then by the end of grade 8, this is where they should be. And then you have a vertical progression all the way from kindergarten through high school of this particular standard. Okay. So these two are the most important. So if you're taking notes, I would make I would say, like, under the home tab, the two main things are the teacher background, the standards alignment. You have a materials list, an answer key, and then if you're trying to evaluate your students, which I know is going to be coming up in the future on how they're progressing on their CCCs and SEPs, there's scoring rubrics there for this particular standard. All right. Under the Engage tab, now start a new notes section that says Engage. There are two parts of the Engage that are absolutely crucial to make sure that you cover your standard. And those two are the investigative phenomena and the hook. So if you're writing it down, the investigative phenomena and the hook are the two must-dos, I'll say, in order to cover your standard. This day and age right now, since we've had so much issue with COVID and had to be virtual for, a lot of the time, a couple of years ago or part of last year, you may be really doing yourself a favor by doing the accessing prior knowledge, because you want to see where the gaps are. You've had students who didn't attend school, who might have just attended in the morning and didn't attend in the afternoon if it was virtual. And so you don't know what your students' prior knowledge is. So it would be really helpful for you to do the accessing prior knowledge. However, that's optional, but you might just want to see where they are. So there's an activity that's teacher-led about accessing their prior knowledge. Graphic organizer is also an option. I'm going to click on it so you can see kind of what it is. I'll click over here and show you. This is something that you could give all the students, or just students who might have an IEP where they have to use a graphic organizer, but they could add to this throughout the whole scope. So as you're teaching and learning throughout the whole scope, you can keep coming back to this. This is something that they could cut and glue into a journal, if they're keeping a notebook, an IMB, interactive notebook. So that's something they could do there. So that is optional. Let's look at the investigative phenomena, which is really not optional. This is kind of our overextending kind of real world connection. So when you see the investigative phenomena, all of your elements are going to have a description, materials right there. So you don't have to go to that main materials list every time. The materials are going to be right there. How to prepare for this activity, and all of your facilitation points, including expected student answers and questions. And I highlighted this just to show you that, you can introduce students to these questions. Like, here's a question you will ask the students. So I wanted you to see that this is almost like a script for you if you need it or if you want it. I personally would copy these, print them, and keep them with me during the activity for the explorers and for the engages, just so that I don't have to keep running back to my computer or trying to memorize the facilitation points and the procedures. I would keep it with me so I could walk around and be engaged with my students at the same time. Because as you can see, there's a lot to do here. There's 8 steps in this activity right there. And then you always want to go back to this throughout the scope. So each time you're doing different parts of the scope, always be kind of circling back to this investigative phenomena. Okay, so the investigative phenomena, very important piece. Notice over here that you have some options. If you want to print the table that you're going to be, this is the investigative phenomena table. Another thing you can do, you could print this for each student, or you could make this and make it as a poster in your classroom. And then and laminate it, and then use a dry erase marker. And each time you move to a different scope, you just change the wondering of phenomena question, and you record. You just have this be a whole group activity where students can either come up and put sticky notes for what they think, or they can call out answers to you, or they can come write what they think before, during, and after instruction. So this would be a great way to save paper and to just have a whole group engage activity with the investigative phenomena. Just create a poster or draw it out on your whiteboard or something if you can. Move this out. Okay, so there's your investigative phenomena. The other thing that is a must do is the hook. So the hook is going to be a little tiny video, very short video with no sound. So don't think your computer's broken. It has no sound. It's just a thought-provoking video. And then there's questions that you as a teacher, facilitation points and questions and discussion. You also scroll down and you've got some language acquisition strategies for your ELPs, your ELL students, but these are also good for all students because honestly, you think about it, the language of science is kind of a foreign language to all students when they're being first introduced to it. Some of these terms are new to everyone, so it's certainly not going to hurt them to all do this activity. Okay, so if you look on the right though, what I was going to mention here is you have your print files. So here are the print files for this activity in English and Spanish. And then if you want to assign this digitally, here's how you assign something digitally. I know that was something that we wanted to focus on today. We know that you cannot, it doesn't have an assign button. So you have to click view student, either in English or in Spanish. So I'm gonna view student. And now I have an assign button here. So I'm gonna click assign. And I will show you how to set up a new assignment for your class. So I click here and I click whatever classes I want to receive this assignment. I want both of my classes to receive this assignment. And let's say I don't want my whole section. Let's say that I want to give my whole section this English version. So I would say entire section and leave it like that. I could put a start date and an end date if I want to. But let's say that I didn't want to give, let's say I wanted to give a Spanish version to just a few students. So if this was a Spanish version, I would only do one class at a time, and then I could choose individual students in that class for this to go to if I wanted to assign them in Spanish. That way, everybody wouldn't get it in Spanish, just the ones who need it in Spanish. So now if you put more than one class up here, you can't do individual students because it only lays it out by class. But if you want to just do everybody, then you can put as many classes as you want here. If you want individual students, you have to choose that by the class. All right, you don't have to put a start and end date, but you certainly can. If you put a start date that's like 2 weeks ahead, students won't see it in their assignments until then. One thing I want to make sure you see that's new is pausing the assignment. I would click that every time just in case I need it. This allows you to pause the assignment when your students leave your classroom. So for example, let's say you're doing something that you're going to be grading, but students don't all finish, or you don't want them going out in the hallway and showing what they're doing to all the other students. You can pause that assignment and it takes it out of your students' view, out of their platform. So they can't see it. It'll save any answers they've done, but it takes it out. Okay. Immediately release to students. I don't use this one very often, only if it's something that perhaps it's a video like content connections videos, and I want them to turn it into me, but I want them to still have access to watch the video if they want to review or something, or like the concept review game. I want them to be able to play it over and over. You could do something like that, something that's not going to be graded, that you don't mind if they share with others or that they see again. You could do immediately release assignment. But if it's something graded, please don't click that one. You don't want to click that. All right, and then up here, you can add a label like homework, classwork, assessment, test, quiz, whatever. You can also add a note for your students. And in this note section, if you, let's say you have some PowerPoint notes or something, a video you want them to watch from YouTube, you can put a link in the note section as well. Now, this is an option that we added for the pandemic, which means that you can include the setup video for your students or their parents if needed, like we did that for sure in elementary, because a lot of kids were doing these labs and these activities virtually. So this would allow you to add that hook video to the assignment. Normally, it wouldn't be something you would add because you'll be doing it in class. But if by chance you have to go virtual again, you would want to toggle that so that when the students get the assignment, they can see the video that you're asking questions about. And then when you get all that in and all that information inputted, you just add this assignment. Oh, I didn't choose it. I'm going to go entire section and then add this assignment. So that's how you add it. So the only way to add assignments and to assign content is to be in the activity that you want to assign and go to assign student. So some of them you'll notice these all have a T for teacher. So if it has a T, you're going to have to go to view student and then assign. But if you see here how some of them have an S, that's already a student page. So if I click STEMscopedia and I want to assign that to my students, it already says assign to students right here. But if it's a teacher page like the linking literacy, I would have to view student because it wants you to see there are teacher directions for that. And then you can assign to students. I am not looking at the chat, but let's make sure that if anyone has no questions so far, make sure you guys either interrupt me or put a question in the chat and I'll get to those as soon as I can or at the end. Everyone make sure that you have gone to the link in the chat to sign in for this session, just making sure that y'all remember that. All right, so again, in Engage, the investigative phenomena and the hook are the two most important parts of that one. Once you're done with that, you move on into the explore activities. Now, this is the heart of the curriculum. Engage gets them going. Explore gets them doing. So they're going to get their hands on this time. Anything that says activity, or if it says scientific investigation, those are explore activities that are really important for the content. So some of them might say research, or some of them might say engineering. Those are going to more hit on your CCCs or your SEPs. But if it says activity or scientific investigation, those are hitting your content. Do not skip them. I also want to say that if you want to be sure that you are entirely covering your standard, you should do all of the explore activities, every one of them. This one has 4. Now, let's say you're running really short of time. If you have to skip something, you can skip the ones that are like the TUVA, which is fantastic. You guys are going to love TUVA, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But if you had to skip something, you could skip the TUVA. You're not going. That's going to hit one of those SEPs, and so you're not going to want to skip that every single time. It'll roll around back through some other times. But you definitely must do the activities and the scientific investigation, or you're not going to cover all the parts of your standard, of the DCI, the main core standard. So make sure you do all these. All right, let's click on one and just kind of go through a little bit with you on this. So you will have, for every single explore activity and for every hook, you will have a video that helps you. Well, the hook video is for the students, but this one helps you set up the whole entire investigation. It's going to give you, the video will also give you a description, what materials you need, how to prepare. It'll tell you all of these procedure and facilitation points, what the students are supposed to be doing while you're going through. It's really helpful for you as a teacher to watch this video. It helped me tremendously. It kind of gives you a visual of how the whole thing's going to run. So it gets you really prepared. But again, you have everything listed here as well. I would print this and keep this with me so that I make sure that I am, walking around through my tables and making sure that I'm telling the students to match the symbol with the old word for the element in the card. It tells you everything that you're supposed to be doing in your procedure. So print this and keep it with you. If you want to have your students write all their answers and their data in a journal, you would use the print files here if you want them to do all that. Or if you want to assign this digitally, you would view student and assign it this way. In the student view, this is what the students would see, just like this, except they would not see the answers, obviously, because the student platform doesn't include answers. But when you want to demonstrate to your students how to use their digital platform, you don't have to have the answer showing either. All you have to do is go up here to your little toolbar and click this eyeball, and that hides all the answers. You don't have to do that when you're assigning, because your student's platform doesn't have the capability to show answers. But when you're doing it, you want to make sure that because a lot of times maybe you have to explain to your students how to use some of these tools. So you might want to model a student page and how to fill this out or how to use this page. And if so, you want to be sure that you don't show them the answers. And this is a drag and drop instead of a cut and paste. So they took the print, cut and paste activity, which would be, if I go back to my teacher page, right here, the using symbols right here, which is a cut and paste activity. See the cut and paste activity right there? There's first some questions, and then there's the cut and paste. But if you don't want to do the that and you want to do it virtually, you will see that they have a drag and drop option for a cut and paste. So they would use their drag and drop down here and drag and drop things there. So you have an option, print or virtual. Okay, so that was just Explore 1 activity, and then there's Explore 2 and Explore 3. The TUVA data sets, I don't have time to go into it deeply, but the greatest thing about the TUVA is that the data is already all there for you. It's not like the students have to collect data. We know they're pretty good at doing a lab, and they can write down how many grams something is, or they can measure and do all that kind of thing in data. But this is real world data. And then all they're going to do is they manipulate the data. And then they have to answer questions to interpret the data. And we know that's what kids have the hardest time doing, is interpreting graphs. So they can usually take information and maybe even create a graph, but they have a hard time understanding the relationship between the variables in a graph. So this is a great activity that's related to the content that helps them to manipulate the data so that then they can interpret the data and understand the relationships. So it tells them exactly how to do it. So the students, you can assign this directly to your students. If you view the student page, it will tell, and then you can assign it to them, and it'll tell them step by step. It even tells them drag this attribute to the x-axis, drag this attribute to the y-axis. So you can drag and drop things, and you'll watch your data change. See how the data all changes. And let me drag this one here. See what happens. And then it's going to tell them what to do, and it's going to ask them questions about it so that they can interpret their data. So if there's ever a TUVA data set in your Explore and you have time, it would be great for you to do these. I would, if I were you as a teacher, I would practice it first myself, because it's you want to make sure that you can answer your student questions, maybe even model the first one you do with them, and they do it all together. All right, so there's your Explore activities. So far, the must-dos: engage, investigative phenomena, and hook. Explore, in order to make sure that you hit every part of your standard, all the Explore activities. You can't just say, I'm just going to do number 1 and number 3, because if you don't do number 2, you're not covering that part of your standard. All right, engage gets them going, explore gets them doing, explain gets them knowing. So now the 3 parts of the explain that are crucial for making sure you cover the content and that you provide your students with the content they need are these first 3. So please write that down. They have to have access to vocabulary, and they have to have the STEMscopedia, because that's their textbook. That's the content. And with the STEMscopedia, the linking literacy pre, during, and post activity. And why is that so important? That's your accountability piece. That's to make sure that you know your students have actually engaged with the content in their STEMscopedia. If you simply just assign the STEMscopedia and say, okay, read the STEMscopedia, there is no way for you to know for sure if your students actually read it, or if they weren't daydreaming or whatever during the whole thing. So the wonderful thing about linking literacy is that STEMscopes has paired a graphic organizer with every single STEMscopedia. And it's going to give, there's a pre-reading activity, a during reading activity, and a post-reading activity. Let me show that to you. So here is your STEMscopedia. This is in a student, this is what the students would see if you assign it to them digitally. You can also print them, but that's a lot of printing. But this is what it looks like for them. And there's always something for them to do. So here, there's an activity for them to do. There's an activity for them to do. Here's another activity for them to do during the STEMscopedia. You also want to be sure that they are doing the linking literacy with this. That's just an interactive piece. So let's look at the linking literacy and what that looks like for this particular STEMscopedia. It's already going to be geared towards that. So it's telling you what you need. Here's for pre-reading. Here is the downloadable activity for pre-reading. So what their STEMscopes has already put pictures in here, and then they will drag and drop them where they need to be. And then there's an answer key for, or I'm sorry, I guess this is not a drag and drop. They're typing things about it there. During reading, they're going to do a guide with evidence during their reading. There's also English and Spanish and an answer key for you. And then post reading, they're going to do a knowledge transfer, and there's always an answer key for you. Again, these can be printed and handed to your students so that they could fill them out before, during their reading, and after their reading, or you can assign it digitally to them, and it's got all three on one page. So here's their pre-reading activity. Oh, here it is. It says list 4 to 5 similarities and differences between atoms, molecules, and compounds. And so they're just going to do whatever they already know about that. And then during the reading, they're doing an agree, disagree statement. There's a statement, and then they agree or disagree with that statement, and they provide evidence from a paragraph and evidence from the reading. This is showing that they have to do some type of interaction with the reading in order to even be able to fill this out. You could take it as a grade. You could do it as a completion grade. You could just, however you want to use this to your advantage to make sure that students actually are engaging with their text. And then a post-reading activity. So that's what it looks like if you assign it digitally. So please do yourself a favor and do not skip the linking literacy. I promise you, you will get so much more out of your students. You will be sure that they're at least having to read most of the text in order to be able to fill those out. So the top 3 things here are your must-dos. Everything else is optional. Very helpful, but optional. I like to use a lot of these during a review time before I do my evaluation. So if you want to see how you could structure the entire scope, you would do your engage, you would do all of your explore activities, and then you would also do all 3 of these. Now you can do some of these. You can do kind of an explore, explain cycle. If you want to introduce a few vocabulary words at a time, you could do that. Then I would do some type of formative assessment. After I've done the engage, the explore, and had them read the STEMscopedia with the linking literacy and have them practice with their vocabulary some, I would 100% do some type of formative assessment. And then the next day, I would kind of take that assessment and say, boy, these guys, they don't get it at all. They're still really lost. These guys are doing pretty good. I think they could actually pass the evaluation, the assessment right now. What you do then is you use your elaborate. For your kids who are doing well, who did well on the formative assessment, they can do any of these extra activities because elaborate gets them growing. They could also do some of these acceleration extensions or science art activity while you are doing a guided intervention with your babies who have not grasped the concept yet. So we have built-in differentiation right here. And believe it or not, I don't care if you're middle school, high school, you don't think you can do small groups, you absolutely can. And it is built in for you. So you take your kids who are not doing well, who are not getting the concept, who are have these big gaps, and you do a guided practice with them, an independent practice. And there's even another quiz you can give them as another formative assessment before the regular assessment, or you can use this as a modified quiz for your students who have that in their IEP, that they have to have a modified assessment. So while you're doing the intervention, you keep your other kids busy by giving them any of these. Notice how every one of them has an S on it. Means there's really no big teacher instruction to be done. This is meant to be independent for the students. You just assign it to them. They would love working on all these PhET simulations. Look how many there are for structure of matter. There's 5 PhET simulations. Science Today is a real world connection. Career Connections is some kind of science career related to the matter. Reading Science, these are in 8th grade, they're leveled by Lexile level. So this is below, on, and above grade level. There's some Math Connections activities there. Acceleration, you have a science art project that the students might want to do. So there's plenty for your others to do while you're working with your intervention students. Now, let's say that the whole class isn't doing well. Well, by all means, go ahead and do the guided practice with your entire class if you want to. And then you can just have them have some choices if they want to elaborate after that before you're ready to evaluate. So in the explain, then I could also do this one as a review. So this one you could also, Veronica is our trainer. She was just calling me. I don't know why. She knows I'm doing your training right now. Let's see if she texted first. Sorry, guys. I want to make sure that there's not something I'm supposed to make sure I tell you or something. I just a little question mark. Okay, so Science Rock is something that you could do every day as they come in the class or as they leave the class. Oh, she said, sorry, accidentally dialed you. So good. I guess that's nothing bad. Communicate Science is a kind of a real world, getting those 21st century communication skills. That's something that's very optional. You probably know. Concept review game is a great little kind of game show format for students to review all their concepts and their vocabulary. I would always assign content connection videos. So if you guys are taking notes, please write down content connection videos, put a star by it under the explain section. I love them. They're really great. We've partnered with the BBC. They're very great videos. They have questions with them. And then always make sure that you do the concept review game in that too. So those are just some optional, but very, very effective. The review game and the content connections video, really good. You're going to have a short BBC video, and then you're going to have some questions that follow. So these can be done. I think it's good to do it with all your students. All right. After you've done engage gets them going, explore gets them doing, explain gets them knowing, elaborate gets them growing. And then we want to make sure that was all done with some differentiation there. You know, after the explain, after you've given them all their content, we do a formative assessment. You kind of break off into groups, individual, you know, you do your intervention with you. It's guided, it's teacher guided. And then the other students are working on extension and acceleration. Then you're ready to evaluate. Evaluate gets them showing. And we have 3 options for evaluate here. And if you are not familiar with CER, claim evidence reasoning, you really need to get familiar with it, because this is where all our testing, our state testing is headed. This gives students a scenario, gives them some data, and they have to come up with a claim, and then they have to back up that claim with evidence and then give their reasoning. So, and then the older grades, you also have a rebuttal. So I want to be sure and be clear how important it is that you guys start, if you haven't been already, that you start doing this. Lucky for you, there is a CER available for every single scope. So this may not be something you start at the beginning, just assigning to students if they're not familiar with it. It's something you're going to want to model with them first. Maybe do this as your formative assessment before you go into your differentiation, because this will give you a wide open eyes about where the students are. So here's an example. There's your scenario. Here's your data. And then it asks the students, it gives them a prompt, and they have to make their claim, provide evidence, and reasoning. So if I show you the answers, nice for you, it even shows what the claim should be. Expected student answers for their evidence, and then expected student answer for their reasoning. Again, if they're not familiar with this format, this is something that you're going to want to model with them. So the first few times, maybe model this with them. So I highly recommend doing this. But that, you've also got open-ended responses and you have multiple choice. Personally, I would give all three and make this a comprehensive, end of scope quiz where I have multiple choice, which the platform will grade that for you if you assign it to students. Anything multiple choice, true, false, anything with a definitive answer will be graded for you. Open-ended response is open-ended, but they can still do it on the platform digitally, and then you just go in, read their answer choices, and then decide if it's correct or not, or give them whatever partial credit you want. And then the same with claim evidence reasoning. It's open-ended, so you'd have to look at those. And I know that takes a little more time, but on multiple choice, if you'll notice, you don't have enough questions to make this a full assessment. There's only 5, and that's for a reason, so that they're sure that you're going to also evaluate in other ways. So make sure that you also, if you want more questions, you can go to this assessment bank and create more questions as well. Because these questions, I believe, are also in here. A lot of the questions throughout might already be in here. All right. Any questions about navigating through or a scope using the 5E? And I know we've got our 5E model here, but don't forget about your home. This is your teacher edition, basically. And don't forget about your intervention and acceleration activities here. If we don't have any questions on that, let me look at the chat.
I do have one question.
Sure.
You have the generic investigation phenomena table. Does STEMscopes have like one of that for each of the science and engineering practices that we could make posters for our classrooms from? And how do we get there?
No, the science and engineering practice, the investigative phenomena covers, it's for the content. Yes, there are no investigative phenomena separate things for the SEP or the CCC. What we've done, and I'll show you in the Explorers real quick. Let's see. What we've done is we've embedded the CCC and the SEP activity. So this one doesn't have one. This is just content. Let me keep looking. Hold on. This one.
But can you just show us how to get to that? If we just wanted to specifically get to that and print that out, do we have to go through every scope to find where it is?
Oh, the investigative phenomena chart.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Let me see. I think it's in resources. I will look for that for you. But what you could do, let's see this one right here. Let me pull that up. Okay, you see how this right here, this is a generic one. So they all are generic. So this one is any engage you open, it would be like this. So you could, it's generic. So you could
Right,
use.
and I'm asking, is there a library of documents like that, or do we have to go through every scope and see which one is used?
I don't believe there is,
Okay.
but this, you would just go to one scope and print this one for your poster, because you see it doesn't have anything in it. This would be it's the same one for everyone. So if I go to the next engage, it's this exact same table.
Okay, thank you.
But it tells you in the description what the question is that you should be asking in that. It tells you in each one in the engage, it gives you the steps. During that, it tells you the question. It says the investigative phenomena table can be printed for each student, or the student wondering a phenomena question can be written on the board to be referred to throughout the scope, or on the poster if you did make a poster. And here is the question for this engage. Yes, there's not a thing that tells you what each question is for, like, you would be, because you would want to be in the scope, in the engage, because look at all the different questions and the different facilitation. Here is the question you would put on that poster for this engage, for this particular scope. Okay, so now I'd like to make sure that I show you the student page. And if you did have students who turn in assignments to you, how you look at those assignments, how you go there. So, and let me go to block 2. Let's see what we have here. In this, I have 3 students. This is my roster. I can look at the assignments I've assigned them. So I assigned Science Today and Investigative Phenomena. So these are my 2 assignments. I can click on one assignment and see that I've only had one person submit this assignment. So this is how you look at it. These are my 3 students. This tells you the exact time and date that they turned it in, how long it took them to complete the assignment, and it gives you their answers. And this one says it's incomplete. Now I got several things I can do here. I can grade this. And if I grade it, it takes me to it. And I can look at what this student, how they completed it. So that's their video for the hook, the investigative phenomena or whatever it was. And then this was that's their answer. And then this is the real answer. And I can give them a grade depending on, I can give them full credit. I can give them, half credit. I can give them 20% credit. You can put whatever you want. And I can also provide them with some feedback. And then here's question 2, the answer. There's what I can give them for credit and feedback, question 3. So they do have some automatic here, but you can put whatever credit you want there. And then if there was anything in here that was a definitive answer, like a multiple choice, it would already be graded for you. It would already say 0 or 100 if it was any kind of multiple choice. So that's what it looks like when I look at hers. Now, I'm gonna close her, and I got some options that I can do. If I want her to receive her grade and all my feedback along, with, or if it was a multiple choice, it would give her all the correct answers. I would click release feedback for her. If I click release feedback, that means that grade is your grade. I'm returning your paper to you. It shows all your answers plus the correct answers or my feedback. If I click return, you might want to write this down because this is kind of confusing. Release feedback means they get their graded assignment back with the correct answers and or feedback that I've given. If I hit return, it returns their paper back to them just the way they had it with no corrections or anything, but they can now make corrections. This is their redo. Return is their redo. And you can write a note. You can say, you didn't answer all the questions, or you can say, please review and resubmit. A review, answer number, or change or correct questions 2 and 5, for example, or you could say make corrections if you just don't want to tell them which ones, and resubmit. So you could do something like that and return it to her, and then she gets it back. Or you can also reset. And if you reset, we'll see now I've already returned it to her. The other one was reset. If I reset it, you know what it does? It wipes it clean. It erases all of her answers and gives her a new blank copy where she has to do the whole thing over. So release feedback, graded, gives them back their grade and all the correct answers and or feedback I've given. Return means redo, make corrections and return it, resubmit it. And then reset means I just wipe the whole thing clean because maybe you took 30 seconds or a minute to do it and you got them all wrong. So I'm just resetting it and giving it back to you. So start over. Okay, so that's how you do those. And you can look at all your class results at one time. I only have one though, I believe now. I just sent that one back. So you can look at all the students at one time. You can look at all of their question 1. That's kind of nice too. You can just look at all your question 1s for your whole class at one time and grade those. Then you can go to question 2 and do all 25 question 2s. That way you don't have to keep remembering what the answer is when you go back through. So that's another way to grade that. Once your whole class has turned it in, you would have all 25 kids in one place and you could grade question 2 for student 1, question 2 for student 2, question 2 for student 3, and so forth. Okay. If you want to look at assignments, you can, but I can also look by student. I can look at each student and see what they've done on each of theirs. I can see that they've started these, but they haven't completed them. So you can look by student or you can look by assignment. Any questions about that so far? I can also show you a student view if you're interested in seeing what the student view looks like. Or if there's anything in particular you guys want me in this last 10 minutes, is there anything I can specifically focus on for you? Go ahead and unmute if you have anything that you want me to specifically, like what is something that you've been struggling with in the platform? Is there anything that I can help you with there? Let me show you then a student view, and then I want to make sure I show you some of our resources that are amazing. So I'm going to log out as me. Oh, I need to first see. Let's look at sample student. I can show the password NM Science. So sample student NM Science. That's how you can look at student view too. You see how I can now log out as myself and log in as a student because I have their username and password. So now this is going to be a student view. I don't want to save that password. So if they had any assignments, here's where they would be, and they would start their assignments, and this is where they would be. Right here, they've got a Science Today, Watch It, and Investigative Phenomena. And it's telling me, oh, one of my assignments was returned because this is the one I just returned for her. So then I would look in below for the returned assignment, and I would click on it, and it would have a note. Oh, that's wrong, sorry. It says one was returned. Look below for the assignment that have a status returned. When you open it, it'll be given. Well, I don't see either one that has, maybe it was at this one that returned. Oh, you have a week to complete this activity. So this must be the one that was returned. And it tells me the note that I wrote, please review, correct questions 2 and 5 and resubmit. Remember when I typed that just a minute ago as a teacher? So that's what they would get. Their answers are all still here. This is what she put, but now she knows I got to go to question 2 and redo that one, and question 5 and redo that one, and then turn that in again. So they're going to turn that in and submit it. And now you'll see they only have one assignment left in their home. So if they go back home, they only have one assignment left, and it's only this investigative phenomena one. It won't list them. So now that I've turned it back in, it's gone again. This is where when you grade something, the students will see their grades. Anything that they highlight or annotate throughout their platform would be here. Learning resources. This is what they will have automatically. They have access to every single picture vocabulary for the entire year, every scope. So they click on it, and every scope, here's their vocabulary always for them. There's several pages of that. And then they also have access to all of the STEMscopedias. And this is during the pandemic, STEMscopes employees made some virtual learning of some of the different Explore activities. So this is something that the students could have access to as well. You can also add learning resources when you're creating your classes or edit. If you've already got your classes created for you, you can edit your class and add learning resources. For example, remember how I said when you want to do a formative assessment and then the next day do some differentiation so that you're working with your low students on intervention, and your other students can do some of the elaborate activities? You can go ahead and add into your students' learning resources as many of those elaborate activities as you want for the whole year so that you don't have to stop and assign them every time. And I can show you how to do that as well. So that was the student view. Now, if I want to add those assignments, those extra learning activities. I go to this class that's already set up for me, and I can go to edit section. And you see where it says learning resources available right here. First of all, you want to limit by grade level, because if you don't, they'll get everything, you know, 6th through 8th or 9th through 12th, whatever. And I want to add some of these. If there's an SEP, I definitely want all my kids to get that anytime they want. A science art, sure. Science rock, you bet. Career connections, yes. These are some of the things I would do. Any of the science today that they can get, I would have them do that. All simulations, review games, any FETs, any of the data literacy, which are the TUVA sets, and any of the content connection videos. Personally, those are the things that I would select for my learning resources. So if you guys want to take a screenshot or get your phone and take a picture of that, that's just some suggestions of things that you could put in your learning resources. So you might want to take a picture of this page. Since you're in Clever and everything, you probably don't have to create your own classes. If you do, you just go to create class, and this is where you name your class. That's the only thing you have to do, is put a name on your class. And then you can limit by grade level, and then you can put the learning resources available for them. And then if I were to log in as a student where it said learning resources and all I saw were the vocabulary, the STEMscopedia, and the virtual learning, now I'll see all of these. And I can just tell my students, go to this particular scope and do something in that scope, or go to any of these that you want, go to concept review game and find this scope. It just gives it to them so you don't have to stop and assign right then. Okay, we've got about 3 minutes. Remember the help key. Got your help right there in case you need it. They are, since the platform has kind of changed, we've made it more accessible for other digital devices such as laptop. It's always been great on laptops and computers, but we've made it more accessible for tablets and phones. They are updating the help videos as much as humanly possible right now. So some of them might have the old platform look, but basically still the same idea. You guys, I hope that you I've helped today in clarifying some things for you, and that you got a good understanding of what the must-dos are versus the can-dos. You've got a lot of options for intervention. I'll stay on for any questions if you guys want. And we want to make sure that you guys get back on your link again and sign out, right, Elisa?
Yes, that's correct, Karen.
Okay, so now are you already putting that in the chat? Because I don't see it right now. My chat is not open. Let me see. Okay, so now you have a new form to fill out. So everyone go to the chat, click on Elisa's form so that you get credit for being here the entire hour. And go play around with things. You're going to learn so much more when you go delve into a scope yourself and see what all of it is there. And one thing I do want to point out in this last minute, very important, under the main scopes tab, please, please, please know this is here for you. There is a teacher toolbox right there. So to the underneath on the main scopes page, you might want to write that down. You're going to forget where. There's a teacher toolbox, and there is a wealth of amazing vocabulary activities, and you can find so many great things here. So under literacy, you have at the bottom, you have to scroll down. There are so many great vocabulary activities to do besides just the vocabulary flashcards that are in the platform. There are acrostic poem and beat the clock, games and races and things that even high school kids love to do. Vocabulary, like I said, very difficult for students, all students. It's a foreign language. So please don't skip out on vocabulary. Don't just say, here's your list, make flashcards. Here's your list, do a prayer model. Do some different things with your vocabulary. Your kids will have a lot more fun learning with these kind of games. There's bingo, there's graffiti art. There's just tons of great things there. Also, there's a master, all those linking literacy graphic organizers that STEMscopes has embedded into your STEMscopedias. Here's a whole bank of all of them. So if there's like, maybe you love an anticipation guide and you want to use that for something else, look at all of these. You can click here for an editable version or a PDF and use it with other lessons. So there's lots of that there. There's also parent resources, tools, periodic table, roll cards, pacing guide. That's very helpful for you guys too. A pacing guide would help you with your planning. It kind of shows you like how to set up the whole scope and all that good stuff. So just don't forget about your toolbox. It's on the left side of your main scopes page. I wish I had time to go into it a little deeper, but you can have to go there yourself. Thank you guys so much for your participation today. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'm going to hang on here till everybody's gone in case anybody has specific questions for me. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Don't forget to sign out on Elisa's link.
Ms. Glover, this is Earl Sanchez. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Earl.
So can we modify the assessment components?
Yes. Yes. Let me show you that real quick.
Yes.
Okay, let's see here. Let's go back to our scope that we were on. It's recently viewed. Here we are. So let me go here to the evaluate section. You see right here on the open-ended response, for example,
Yes, ma'am.
there's the print file with the
Okay.
I'm going to show you that. This is what that would look like if you did it just like they have it. Okay.
I got you.
And
Got
then
that.
if you want, there's an editable Google file there. It
Okay.
makes you make a copy
Okay. Okay.
and then wait for it. It's making a copy for me. It's thinking.
That's okay. We're good.
And then I can either add questions. I can modify this. However, I could add answer choices if I needed to. I could simplify the vocabulary. I could change it to Spanish. However, I need. It might already be in Spanish. I don't know. I have to look again. But there it is.
This.
Editable.
Can
So now
this
I can
be?
edit
I'm
that.
sorry.
Uh-huh.
Can this be translated to the online? To this?
Oh no, this cannot. No.
Okay.
Now you
Okay.
can, because if you change it, then STEMscopes doesn't have the online version of your changes.
I understand. So
Yeah.
it can only be changed as per a student handout.
Yes, or right here, student handout can't even be changed because it's a PDF. But if you view in Spanish, it'll give it to you in Spanish. See, there it is in Spanish. But
Okay.
if this is just if I view it back in English, the print files is a PDF. So that is not going to be able to be changed because it's a PDF.
Yes. Yes.
But no, you wouldn't be able to make the Google one an online version. Now, what you could do, you could make a Google form. Using this, you could copy paste out of the Google, you could just use those questions and create a Google form, and then your students could do it online.
Okay.
That was a great question. I'm glad you asked that about
Yes, thank you.
modifying. So let's
One more
see, claim
question.
evidence reasoning. Okay, yes, look, claim evidence reasoning also has an editable.
Okay.
And then let me see if the multiple choice does. Yes. So all of the evaluations have an editable version. Okay,
Okay.
what's your other question?
On your main menu at the top,
Yeah.
next to scopes is streaming.
Mhm.
Before I was able to click on there and I could look for streaming of say thermodynamics, but now when I click it, it tells me that from what I understand, we don't have access to that. We didn't purchase
Right.
that piece.
That's right. That
Okay.
is an add-on package.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever used Discovery Streaming,
Yes.
Discovery Education. It's
Yes.
like that. I can show it to you. Maybe
Well, you
you
can't use
have
it, though.
funds. I know, but maybe you have funds. Maybe you could write it, talk to your principal, to your campus. I'm not, if this is something you're very interested in,
Okay.
maybe there's a workaround where you could get a subscription for your campus or, talk to your district about it. But there are thousands of BBC videos
Oh,
here
yeah.
that also have activities. So
Yes.
like, for example, if I click on this one, and they're in different categories, this will tell me if I have lessons on this too. So there's excuse me just one second. Trying to think of where, no, that's not it. I can go to, hold on just a second, I have to recall for a minute because it's been a minute since I've done this training. No. Oh, it must have, give me a second here.
Yeah, because the practice one that we were given before we purchased
Yeah,
allowed us
That's
to do
good.
that. It was great.
yes. So, oh, I'm sorry, it's in Explore. So if you click Explore,
Oh.
you can look at, you can filter things. So you can there's a filter here that you can search for media. So here you could say, I want something that has a writing prompt. I want something that has discussion questions or an activity, extension activity. So you can do the different filters here. So the neat thing is basically it's like Discovery Streaming, but it's through the BBC.
I
And
understand.
STEMscopes has partnered with the BBC. So we add it on as a package where there's and you can do it by grade level. So I would just suggest, I don't know the cost of it because I'm not in the sales department, but this
Okay.
is something that you could inquire with Amy Canales, and I can give you her email.
No, she's reached out to me and I've spoken to her, but I
Okay.
haven't heard from her. But I'll
Okay.
get back.
Yeah, definitely. She's give her send her an email, acanales@acceleratelearning.com, and she will tell you the price of it and look at getting it if you can.
Yes.
Seeing what it is. Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Anyone
We'll
else?
see you. I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good
Bye-bye
year.
now. Yes,
Bye
ma'am.
bye.
Wish you all the best. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Okay, if there's no more questions, you guys are free to go. I see we've got still,
I have a question.
Yes.
I've probably already answered this question already.
That's okay, Monica.
Is there any way, like when we're going through the engagement activities, is there any way of getting a link from them and then just using the Google platform to attach those links, or has to be automatically done through STEMscopes?
Well, it does have to be done through STEMscopes, but here's what I do. And this is what I used Google Classroom as well. And this is what I did. I would put my agenda for the day in Google Classroom. And I would say, I want you to complete the investigative phenomena and the hook, even though these are really supposed to be teacher led. So I would, but if you want to put them, I would just say, go to STEMscopes to, to access them. But you could put that in your Google Classroom, as an instruction, because if you have Clever, your kids have Clever too, right? So they would just go to STEMscopes and then they would see it in that top section for assignments and they would fill it out in there.
Okay,
but you can still use Google Classroom as your platform to instruct your students where to go. And kind of like an agenda. Today, we're going to do investigative phenomena in the hook. And so even if you're doing it with them as the teacher, you could still put it in Google Classroom and say, go to STEMscopes and look for these or whatever. And then they would go to STEMscopes and click on the investigative phenomena when you're ready to do it and the hook when you're ready to do it. But yes, these stay within our platform.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And in the help, you might also want to look though at how under extras, there's some Google Drive and Google Classroom, just information that might help you kind of see other ideas for integrating Google Classroom and Google Drive into with STEMscopes. Anybody else? I still have 7, 6.
We have a question. I have another colleague here. Go ahead.
The question I have is, how do I set up the kids to go from Clever to STEMscopes? How do we set that up, or do they know how to do it?
Ms. Molina, we can't hear anything. Oh, sorry.
Now you're muted.
Okay,
was
there you
someone,
go.
but did you have another colleague that wanted to ask something?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you
Uh-huh.
hear- Okay.
Yes.
My question is, how do I get the kids sign up to get on STEMscopes? That's one part we never covered.
Clever.
Do they have access to Clever?
Yes, they do.
Yes,
It's on
Ms.
the
B,
district.
they should be able to access Clever through either, there's an extension that's been pushed out by the district. So it should be in their extension toolbar, or on the Gadsden homepage, like right in the center is Clever. So they should be able to click on that, sign in with Google, and then you'll just have to coach them through, where's that fun little STEMscopes icon?
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds
And one way to do that is if you ask a student volunteer to come up and maybe, I don't know how your system works, but like put it on the big screen. I don't know if your student computers can show on the big screen or not, but that way you can demonstrate on a student computer on the student side how it looks, if that's something that you want to model for them. Or just, I guess, what, like she said, like Leslie said too, you can walk them through it, but it's kind of, if you can't see it, it's hard to see, but you could walk them through that.
perfect. We'll try. Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Thank you, Leslie, too, for that. So I hope you guys just have a little bit of time then today, if you don't have, other stuff, or maybe this evening or whatever, just kind of go through what your scope and sequence, and see what your next kind of your section is, your next bundle, and see what scope you would be kind of focusing on next. And if you wanted to do, there are activities for the whole bundle, like there is a phenomena for all the scopes within a bundle, so that after you finish all the scopes, you would go back to the bundle, the big investigative phenomena or the big phenomena in the bundle. So I just didn't want to overwhelm you guys right now with all the bundle activities. Get good on your scope activities, and then as you progress, go check out the bundle activities and see, okay, well, this is doable, I can do this, I can circle back and get the phenomena for the whole entire unit, because a bundle is basically a unit, and then the scopes are like the chapters or the sections of that unit. Anything else from anyone?
Thank you, Karen.
You're
You know,
welcome. It's nice
I'm
to see you
gonna go
guys.
ahead and reach out to Amy
What's that?
for that streaming, because I know that there were a couple of, well, plenty of teachers that have requested that, to see what we can do with that.
Yeah, they put a little teaser on there and it's pretty good.
I
I don't think it's that costly. So, I mean, I know there's quite a few districts who have purchased it, so maybe it's worth looking into. Absolutely. Yeah, reach out to Amy. I'm sure she'd love to sell it to you.
definitely.
Okay. And also, I don't know if you guys, if you have any like professional development questions or any site questions like that, also reach out to Veronica Burnett. Do y'all know who Veronica is? That's who's streaming I'm using, whose account I'm using right now. She is your actual STEMscopes employed regional trainer. I'm a local trainer. So I'm a contract consultant. So, but if you need anything about the platform or about professional development, questions about how to do STEMscopes, that would be V Burnett at Accelerate Learning.
Yes, she's the one, we met her in our first session, face to
That's
face.
right.
Yes.
Yeah, she said that was pretty tough with all the big, huge cafeteria. It was kind of hard to hear and everything. So I'm so glad we were able to get this today for y'all then, to hopefully clear some of that up. She was really excited that there was another opportunity for you guys to do it. She just couldn't do it today herself. So, all right. I enjoyed meeting you guys, and I hope you have a great rest of your year.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting then if no one has any other questions, okay? Bye-bye.